Hey friends, okay, it is a bedtime Bible story time, and I chose to do the story of Hannah tonight. It's a really beautiful story, but it's so sad at the same time. And like I mentioned in part one, the Bible is so full of drama, and there's some drama. The story starts off with a man named Elkanah, and he is from Ramathaim Zophim. Now, that was located in the mountains of Ephraim. Ramathaim Zophim is also referred to as Ramah. Elkanah has two wives. Now, I mentioned there's some girl drama, and I would imagine if you had two wives, there's going to be a little bit of drama. Hannah and Peninnah. And Peninnah was a meanie, like just not nice. Sorry, Lord. Every year, annually, Elkanah would go to Shiloh, to the tabernacle where the Lord dwelled, to make sacrifices and his offerings. I mentioned in part one about Eli, the high priest. Well, this was, Eli starts off in this part of the story. And from what I understand, one would be a goat for the people in the Israelite community, and then the second would be a symbol of the sins being removed from God's people. So this also seems to me a little bit prophetic of Jesus, I'm just saying. Elkanah would bring portions of the offering to Peninnah and her sons and daughters, but he would always give double portions to Hannah. The Bible says he gave her double portions because he loved her. And I love how in verse 5 it says, although the Lord had closed her womb. So, he really did love her. Now, let's get to Miss Peninnah. She was awful. Mean, bitter, envious, jealous woman who just was awful. Just Cruella awful. The Bible actually refers to this as a rival, and that she would just provoke her relentlessly, simply to make her miserable. Like it says, to make her miserable. This was just meanness, okay? And I'm sorry, there is a lot of meanness in the world. So there is nothing new under the sun. But guys, she was mean to her simply because Hannah couldn't have kids. This woman has sons and daughters, a husband, and you're going to be mean to this woman who can't have kids. She was so cruel to Hannah. Hannah would be in tears, weeping. She wouldn't eat. And I know what it's like to not be able to have kids. Now, I was blessed to have kids, but for a long time, I was having several miscarriages. I did not know if I would ever even be able to have kids. Fortunately, God did bless me with two that I was able to have. But, my heart really does seriously sympathize with what Hannah must have been feeling. And this is year by year, every single year. And I'm sure Hannah has just got to be beyond distressed. She is weeping. She's not eating. And Elkanah would even go to her and say things like, why are you not eating? Why are you so sad? What's wrong? Do I not mean more to you than 10 sons? We try to comfort her. So at one point in time, there comes a point where Hannah's just over it. She's so heartbroken. And when they're done eating and drinking on this yearly visit, this particular visit, she gets up after they're done eating and drinking. She goes over to the house of the Lord and she begins praying her heart out. Now her mouth is moving, but no words are coming out. And Eli, the high priest, he's sitting over there in his chair, which is by the doorpost, by the tabernacle, the house of the Lord. And he's watching her and he just thinks she's drunk. So Eli's like, how long are you going to stay drunk? Go put away your wine. And Hannah says, I am not drunk. I haven't had wine or beer. I'm just pouring my heart out to the Lord. She actually says she's heartbroken and she's pouring her soul out to the Lord, actually. And then Eli tells her, go in peace and may the Lord give you what you want. She had also, mentioned also that she was praying in grief as well. She had all kinds of emotions. So anyway, Eli, like I said, tells her to go in peace. And after that, she just didn't look sad anymore. The Bible words it, I think in the New King James Version, that she was not looking downcast any longer. So she must have felt peace at this point. So let's backtrack just a sec, because while she was praying, she told God, and this is where I'm just like, she's like, basically she's praying that if the Lord would just grant her a son, she would not put a razor to his head, never cut his hair, and dedicate him to the Lord. And that's a big deal, because that's, like taking the Nazarite vow, where you would separate, and you would be dedicated to the Lord. So, like Samson, Elkanah and Hannah do their husband-wife thing, and guess what? Hannah gets pregnant with a son. In fact, it says that God remembered her. So, he was definitely hearing her prayer. And he remembers us. He hears us. Like, guys, he hears your prayers. It's so important to have a prayer life with our God. He hears your prayers. And then she names him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. So then there's another, annual sacrifice offering trip to take, and Elkanah's gonna go, and Hannah's like, no, I'm gonna stay behind. I've got to wean the child and dedicate him to the Lord. So, Elkanah's like, okay, do that. He tells her, only may the Lord make good his word. So after she's weaned Samuel, she then takes him with her to the tabernacle. And so after they sacrifice the bull, and no, I'm not going to cry. It's so sad though, but also so heartwarming. So after they sacrifice the bull, they walk over to Eli and with Samuel, and she's like, remember me? Like, I'm the woman that was praying that day. And I've come to dedicate Samuel. She dedicates him, hands him over to Eli to be raised in the Lord's house, dedicates him to the Lord, literally. She says, I prayed this, and God granted me this gift, this son, and now I am giving him to the Lord to stay here, to worship the Lord, to be the Lord's forever, to do the Lord's work. That is an amazing, I'm just like, wow. Can you imagine all the years of torment, wanting a child so badly, and being such an honorable woman to pray so heartfelt? She just wanted a child, but she wanted to dedicate him to God, and she followed through, and boy, was it for the good of the kingdom. God uses our pain for good.